The Ukrainian mobilization law has prohibited the issue of passport documents to men of conscription age, that is, from 18 to 60, at the Ukrainian consulate in Poland. Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz, Poland's defense minister, says Poland can and will help Ukraine in this regard and what this will mean. Will Ukrainians return to the front lines? Today, I will take a closer look.
Na front. Dzisiaj sprawdzam.
Trwałe schronienie w naszym kraju.
Permanent shelter in our country, that is, combined with the receipt of an active PESEL number, found at the end of last year more than 950,000 Ukrainians. The actual number of Ukrainian citizens staying in Poland or being hosted by us periodically, following the 24th of February 2022, is of course several times higher.
2022 roku jest oczywiście kilkakrotnie większa.
Poland is where the largest number of Ukrainians have taken refuge. Men between the ages of 18 and 60 residing outside Ukraine will be able to obtain a Ukrainian citizen's passport only within their own country. Long queues have formed in front of the Ukrainian office in Warsaw. In accordance with a decision by the authorities in Kiev, consulates have stopped serving men of draft age. I have 3 children. I don't know how it will be with these passports. Do you plan to stay in Poland for the time being? Yes, for now, yes, but I don't know how it will go on. There was information that there will be a passport issue point here, but the staff said those who submit documents will be allowed in first. For passport issue, they won't let them in. Will Ukrainians return to the front? There is such an urgent need for new recruits to join the Ukrainian army so that they can be sent and defend Ukraine. Representatives of the Ukrainian government speak about this very often, so Poland is ready to help Ukraine. Originally, the bill was submitted to replace those who have already been on the front line for 2 years, and this is the real problem. These people need to be changed because you can imagine the horror these people have been living in for the past 2 years. The new mobilization law on May the 18th introduced a number of changes to the military recruitment system. Do you know what people want? They want those who should be fighting, retired military officers, policemen, prosecutors. They are sitting here doing nothing. These are the people who constantly get their paychecks from the budget. They have to go to war. It's not fair. As long as there is no justice, it will be like before. Those who don't want to fight won't go to war. Ukrainian forces are estimated at 255,000 troops. Russia, after carrying out the first wave of mobilization, had just over 1,300,000 military personnel. NATO's military personnel, without additional mobilization, is more than 3.5 million, or nearly 3 times as many. The decision by Ukraine's diplomatic chief, in turn, is a direct result of the mobilization law signed in early April by President Volodymyr Zelensky. This element of resistance that was still given some stretch through people who were rooted in courage and heroism for Ukraine, I'm talking about Ukrainians here, this small amount of ammunition, rockets and equipment was somewhere in the range of a few percent compensated by shortages. And here glory and honour to these people that they resisted nevertheless and did not give up. This story could have happened to any of us. This time, a victim of the scammers was the Deputy Prime Minister of the Polish government. Krzysztof Gawkowski bought and then lost a car. Situation is terrible and unbelievable for the reason that my spouse and I bought a car 7 months ago. We checked it at an authorised service centre, checked the VIN numbers, everyone confirmed that everything was fine, and 7 months of use, it turns out that the car has a twin brother in France. The car was seized by the police and the prosecutor's office. Mr. and Mrs. Gawkowski were left without a car and without money. An unbelievable situation, because if the company confirms that everything is okay and that it's an authorised service where this car has a parent organisation in France, it's unbelievable to me that this could have happened, but it did. A very good way to check the car before buying it is to visit the seller at the nearest police station and verify the car in the police database. You need to carry the car's documents and proof of identity, but also be aware that where a lot of money is involved, risk is inevitable. There's no guarantee that you'll get away with it because criminals, as is always the case, are one step ahead of the services, ahead of the police, ahead of all sorts of institutions that deal with either fighting or controlling this kind of crime. For criminals, fraud is a way to make money. so they come up with newer and often more sophisticated methods of taking our money from us.
Na 300 000
I
zostało.
was scammed out of 300,000 zloty, but I won't say who or what.
I co?
Dzwonili do mnie teoretycznie z banku.
They called me theoretically from the bank and said there was some unregistered transaction, etc.
Była jakaś niezarejestrowana transakcja, coś tam, no ale wiadomo.
Who to trust when it comes to losing a lot of money? In such matters, the best advisor is surprisingly often our own intuition.
Po prostu, jeżeli czujemy, że coś jest nie w porządku,
If we feel that something is not right, let's bear down, look for another car of this type or that type, and that will make us sleep perhaps more peacefully and not just expose ourselves to this kind of annoyance.
być może spokojniej i właśnie nie narazimy się na tego rodzaju przykrości.
Deputy Prime Minister Krzysztof Gawkowski has now announced that he will personally try to get such changes in the law that will make it easier for Poles to check cars before buying them throughout the European Union. During a parliamentary speech, Minister Radosław Sikorski explained the turmoil his actions to recall dozens of our ambassadors from posts around the world have caused in Polish diplomacy.
Wiele emocji wzbudziła w ostatnim czasie.
Recently, much excitement has been stirred up by the planned replacement of people in leadership positions at Polish foreign missions. Rotation in the diplomatic service is a natural process. The changes I am proposing are to include dozens of ambassadors and permanent representatives. This is a strange way of arguing, since the diplomats would soon end their terms at the missions anyway. It is standard practice to replace diplomatic staff every 3 to 4 years.
I to jest normalny proces.
This is a normal process, and today too this process should proceed in a calm and balanced way, while taking our foreign partners seriously. Therefore, Polish President Andrzej Duda assessed Radosław Sikorski's actions as frivolous. Such actions negatively affect Poland's reputation in the international arena.
Mam nadzieję, że pan minister...
I hope that Mr. Sikorski will not bring Polish ambassadors to Poland by force and generate conflicts only to remove them by force from their posts.
Każdy ambasador...
Every ambassador should work for Poland, not for one particular party, but for Poland. Former Foreign Minister of the United Right government, Zbigniew Rau, criticised Radosław Sikorski's actions. He recalled that during the Law and Justice government, graduates of Moscow schools were dismissed from the Foreign Ministry, and this is an example to the Minister of how diplomacy ministry should be managed. Now, under your rule, the overwhelming majority of those in the Foreign Ministry are back under your wing. The Constitution clearly states that in matters of international policy, the government must consult the President. However, in this case, there was no consultation. The lights in many countries have certainly gone out about what is going on in Polish diplomacy, since half the ambassadorial staff have been replaced overnight. This is not what any country does. According to unofficial reports, the fired ambassadors would include the ambassador to the United Kingdom, Piotr Wilczek, the ambassador to NATO, Tomasz Siatkowski, or ambassador to Ukraine, Jarosław Guzi. The latter submitted his letters of credence to the Ukrainian president just 4 days ago. And he is already Poland's ambassador plenipotentiary to Ukraine, which is one of our key and most important neighbouring countries. In the past, there has been no sudden replacement of ambassadors, even in the event of a change of power. Donald Tusk's government has broken that standard.
Co grozi tak naprawdę?
This actually threatens to collapse Polish foreign policy for the reason that there are very many good professionals among these people. It is worth mentioning Marek Magierowski or Jakub Kumach and other ambassadors who have contributed to the growth of Poland's position on the international arena. When it comes to the exchange of ambassadors, Poland's President Andrzej Duda has the final word, whose signature determines who will receive letters of credence to go to a diplomatic post. Record low sea ice in late 2023 led to breeding failures in 1/5 of Antarctica's emperor penguin colonies, scientists with the British Antarctica Survey said on Thursday. Emperors, the world's largest penguin species and one of only 2 endemic to Antarctica, depend on sea ice firmly attached to the shore to lay their eggs and raise their chicks. If ice breaks up too early, the chicks will be forced to enter the sea before their waterproof feathers have funnily grown. That happened in 14 of Antarctica's 66 emperor penguin colonies last year as the extent of Antarctic sea ice shrank to a record low, driven in part by climate change-fueled heating. Tens of thousands of chicks are likely to have died. The extent of spring and summer sea ice around Antarctica has fallen significantly over the past 7 years, with 2022 and 2023 registering record summer lows. Although 2023 saw a lower sea ice extent than the year before in nearly all the months of the breeding season, emperor penguin colonies experienced fewer breeding failures than in 2022, which saw breeding failures at 1/3 of all colonies. This was partly because there were fewer sea ice breakup events in 2023, while some birds also seemed to adapt to the changed conditions. Peter Fretwell, a scientist with the British Antarctic Survey, surveyed the birds' movements and breeding failures via the Copernicus programme's Sentinel-2 satellite. He said that about half a dozen of the colonies that were affected in 2022 moved their breeding locations. Some moved south to better ice, while other colonies went up into more stable ice shelves or large icebergs to try to avoid the worst conditions. However, it was reassuring to see that the birds would adapt to the changing conditions to a certain extent. Still, scientists predict that 99% of emperor penguins will be lost by the end of this century if sea ice continues to decline due to climate change fueled by the burning of fossil fuels.